splintering of your energy, and you bring it back to yourself, and you're becoming whole again.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. Like it's a lot to get your head around if you sort of, this is the first time you've heard anything like this, which like for me, I love it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
How do you, like, Trev, I'd love to know how, if you're working with a high performance team or an exec that's at the very start of this, like, how do you introduce something as big as that to someone, and knowing that there's still got a lot of judgments, attachments, a lot of what their success has been built on is who they are. Like, what's the first steps you would take in introducing that?
Well, the trick as a facilitator, or as the person that's trying to be there for that person or that organisation, the trick is to go, is to firstly know that it's wonderful to get up to all that level of understanding, but that's not where the gold is. The gold is with being with the person exactly where they're at. Yep. And any difficulty in being with them is only my own reflection.
Yep.
So I've moved on now, I'm evolved. It's the biggest load of crap. When someone comes along and they're still fighting and kicking and screaming with their relationship partner or their team or their, whatever it is, my ability to stop and be there for that person is the only measure. Because if I can't be there for that person, I've got the same stuff still going on. I'm just pretending I haven't anymore, and I'm in some aloof, like, spiritual garbage place.
Yep.
Because it's really, really grounding to be there for somebody else and to love them and care for them and actually be available for them. Now, what I mean by that is I have turned up with some really high-performing executives that have had sort of almost brutal dictatorships, but there's something, and once again referring to Eckhart Tolle, he calls it the inner readiness. Life has this way, when you're shifting from win-lose to recognise it as potentially lose-lose, to go up to win-win, has this way of actually showing you that, hey, you're not as on track as you think you are. So I've been through it. Most people that have changed have been through it. They begin to actually see their own bullshit.
Yep. And
I think when that happens, that's usually via the law of attraction, this vibrational law that says that we attract to us whatever we need. That there's that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Yep. So when I was ready, on many levels, many different times in every single day of my life, the teacher or the message appears for me every time to say, hey, mate, you're still not there. Come on. That's garbage, But just likewise, I'm putting myself out there and being available to help people left, right and centre. I don't advertise it. I just am. And then I will bump into those people that are ready. So that's the first stage, is to know that if I'm there, they must be somewhat ready, because I'm here. And wherever I go, it's like, it seems to be the law of attraction's at play, and they must be ready. But the first conversation is always about, hey, how you going, and what's happening, and what do you need help with, and what is it you want to change, and what can you currently see is not working. And so that scale that I feel like we all climb of awareness, there's a certain point, there's a bottom of the scale. Everything below that is unconscious, and we're not even really realizing we need to work on ourselves, and everything from the base point upwards is, hey, is this to do with me? So that's the very first conversation we have is, how much do you see? What do you think you can do differently? And it's just really basic conversation. Well, I'm certainly not talking about everything we've talked about so far today, but I might allude to the fact that, because I know all that, I might look, hey, mate, anything's possible. I know you can pull it off.
Yeah.
And right at that moment, I might be saying, I hate my ex-partner, or this business is failing, or whatever it is, and they're telling me why they want to go kill themselves.
Yep.
I've had those conversations, and I'm just sitting there not going, oh, no, don't do that. I'm going, oh, well, you could do that. Yeah, that's one way of, trying to deal with it. But what I do know is you can pull it off and you can change anything. The fact you're sitting here with me means, you must be ready for a deeper conversation, and let's just see how we go today. And they're like, okay. And they ring me, and these people go on to be incredibly successful, and they got to the bottom of the barrel. So that's life on this planet, I reckon. You have to get pretty dark and low sometimes before you want to ultimately change the one thing that really needs to be changed, and that's your own level of awareness or understanding of who you are.
Yeah, well, And probably from learning from you, the treasure's found in the depths. That's like the old cliche. That's where you're going to find the gold, is in the depths and the crevices, under the sea.
Places, bits that all built up crappy energy is, and you look at it and it releases and you just feel great again.
And I think, I think you don't, what's important to know, Trev, is you don't have, you've got the boot camp for the soul, course, but when you coach or facilitate, you don't have a set 3 pages that they have to complete. Like, so much of what you coach and how you talk is based on the moment and, your intuition and the energy within the room, not the spreadsheet or the Excel that you've created and going to give that person, because that's how everyone should live. So I think that's important for people to know.
Yeah. All you can tell me, is it refreshing to work with that way? Because we've worked together before, and you've worked with other people. It's different, isn't it?
It's unique.
To just working through the moment, more organic.
Yeah. And I'd love to know, Trev, like, even when you were competing and, your deep connection, like connections to people, connection to nature, like how do you create and connect, like in that real authentic and deep way that speaks to you? And I know you've told me stories about where you've been sitting on the start line of a race and you've just looked at the current and gone, I'm going to paddle there because it just feels right. And the same, I gather that's the same part of you that can see someone and go, oh, I'm going to bring that up now. That's the right thing to talk about now because it just seems right. This is the right way this should head.
I absolutely. I think it's just a finer vibration of the same thing. So there's an intuition. I think it's important to know, probably the way I teach and work with people is the principle that there's nothing magical that you're going to uncover that's not already there.
Yep.
So that sounds like, when I use the word nothing, there might not be much of it. There is so much magical inside of every person. Like we have crazy capabilities spiritually. It's sitting there when we're young children in the way we connect with the world and we touch everything. And, dogs walk straight past us and, but people, the dog, and we're just loving everything. And people pick up spiders and snakes and they don't touch them. And there's incredible beauty in the connectedness and the simple connectedness when we're very young. And then we lose ourselves and we get this identity built up, and then hopefully one day we wake up from it and get ourselves back, do full circle, but now with the wisdom of it. So I feel as though working with people is very much about uncovering that stuff because it's already there. So really it's all about saying, okay, who are you? Not who can you be.
Yeah.
Who can you be is maybe a good question to point that direction, but it's more correct to say, who are you really? Now, who are you really? So we can tell who you are by the problems you've had, because normally the things that cause the greatest problem for you are a reflection of your greatest power. Mm. So if we've had massive problem with trust, we've probably got a gigantic heart.
Yep.
I can't think of other examples of it right now. It kind of eludes me, but usually your greatest difficulty is reflective of your greatest ability that you're learning how to actually find and embrace and bring to the surface.
Yeah.
So we often a huge capacity, then we have to go through the experience of being totally incapable in that area, and then and so then we avoid that area altogether, and by avoiding it, we actually always feel incomplete. It's not till we come back and face that demon, stare it down and go, what is in that? And we go and we find out, oh my goodness, that's some type of negative planetary trait trying to get me to go away from my purpose, because you go in there and you find that not only are you capable of solving that thing that created so much problem for you, but you potentially you've got a hidden mastery of it.
Yeah.
That bringing to the surface. So I love the scene in Avatar when Jake is finally coming around and he's, beginning to realize that the Na'vi are actually like this deeper connected race, and he can't believe the craziness of the human race that want to mine the unobtainium, which I love. It's called Unobtainium.
Yeah, I love that movie.
And so symbolic, that movie. It's incredible. But and the home tree and the tree of life and all the roots are connected and everything's symbiotically connected. And so he's finally going to get initiated, and he's climbing up to the hanging islands of Babylon or something like that. They're up in the sky and climbing the big roots, and then they're in the cave, and he's going to connect with his Igran, which is that little dragon thing that they fly around. And Natiri, his love interest, she flies in on his Igran and gets off, and they do the little third eye connecting thing, and I see you, blah, blah. And she says to him something along the lines of, Jake, and he, he looks around the corner and all the Igrans are around there, on the platform outside the cave. And she says, when you connect with your Igran, it opens up your whole life. You make the bond. Everything it sees, you see. Everything you see, it sees. It's always available to you. It gives you wings. You'll never be the same again. And she says, and the crazy thing, Jake, is there's only one for you. Yeah. There's only one run for you. And he's like, looks around the corner again, and they're all fighting each other, trying to kill each other, and it's like brutal, And he goes, almost like, oh crap. So how do I know which one's mine? And she says, it's the one that tries to kill you.
Yeah.
And I, in the story, what I relate to, the Igran is your hidden purpose, the part that gives you wings. It's the other part of you. It's the part that's hidden in the shadow. That when you love the shadow and you embrace it, you go in it, you release a part of yourself that's actually your greater abilities, that when you release them, they help you create a better world just for yourself, for your family, for the people you work with, and that circle of influence grows out as much as you want it to or as much as your life calls it to. But on the way to actually embracing that Igran and making the bond, that purpose of yours, your very purpose tries to kill you.
Oh, it's hard.
So, if sensitivity, your purpose has got something to do with sensitivity, you'll be beaten up your whole life, and you can embrace the sensitivity till it gets to a point of not victimhood but power.
Yeah.
So it's the craziest thing is the very thing that's and what our mind does, as we said earlier, our ego, our unconscious says, I need to avoid that.
Yeah,
so it wants to go, we go away from the things that'll hurt us. In fact, the power is going towards them. And that's how we embrace the whole thing and how we move forward.
And Trev, like in modern life, which I call modern life, and this, ability where we've got, hundreds of channels and we've got our phones and we've got this ability to disconnect from reality and just live almost unconsciously and just consume what we need to consume. What's your take on that? Like that ability where we'd actually, you ask a person, what's your life purpose? Like, what's your purpose for getting out of bed in the morning and your purpose? And, I've done this on numerous retreats lately and people don't know. They actually don't have a purpose of why they're doing what they're doing. They're just doing it because it's what they do and it gives them some money and they just are doing what they have to do to get through, really. Like, can you speak to that and that modern space where back even 100 years ago, the purpose was a lot simpler because you had to get food, you needed shelter. That's all given to us now. So our purpose to live is already been given to us, whereas every other animal on the planet, their purpose is survival and their purpose is reproducing, and that's it. Their purpose isn't to have 4 yellow T-shirts that have a designer label given to them. That's not the purpose of the day. It's to live and reproduce.
I often wonder whether it's by design that we're given more and more. We've become softer and softer. We're more consumer-based. Follow the money trail. Who's making the most money out of all of us just being good consumers?
Yeah.
Every weekend we consume the football, we consume some beers, we consume some fashion, we consume whatever else it is. I just picked 3 or 4, whatever else it is we consume. And that consuming temporarily makes us feel better inside. It feeds like a sugary survival mode. That short-term dopamine loop that we create a Facebook post or an Instagram post, and then we check back to see if anyone's liked it. When we like it, we get a tiny little hit of dopamine, and then we look back at it again and again and wonder how many likes it's got now, or I wonder how many people have commented on it. So we're getting these short-term sugary dopamine loops that constantly prop us up, but they also they keep us operating on adrenals, which we need more of it. They separate us out from the really pure foods and everything else, the food groups and the organic foods and everything else that we would normally have eaten or we would normally go and crave. And we're craving sugary things, we're craving mind foods, So we're really getting more and more like mind-based consumers, just thinking. And as our thoughts take us down,